For lesson 104, we're going to talk about algebraic addition and the activity that goes with it. So, in this box, I have some positives, some negatives, some plus signs, some minus signs. Okay, we're going to talk about them as positive and negative signs. Now, remember that if I have one positive sign, one negative sign, they can cancel out. So if I look at this, I see here there's a positive and negative. Those are going to cancel each other out. This positive negative can cancel each other out. Positive negative can cancel each other out. So you notice all that I have left is these two positives right here. So in this case, there's two positives left. And so here's some more examples we're seeing go through. Remember, if I have a positive sign, negative sign, they can cancel out. So here's a positive negative, there's a positive negative, there, and there. So all that's left here is one negative. Okay, moving to the right box, positive negative cancel out, positive negative cancel out, positive negative cancel out. Okay, let's say I thought I had them all. I look around. There's positive there, negative down here. Okay, so they can cancel out. What's left? Well, I have nothing left, so my answer is going to be 0. On the bottom, I have no positive signs, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 negatives. Okay. So if I have 7 negatives, that's the same as saying I have a negative 7 in that box. So I had 1 negative, that's the same as saying I have negative 1 in that box. 0 obviously is 0. So now we're going to look at it with numbers in our boxes. So our first step we're going to do when we have numbers in the boxes is combine numbers that have the same sign. So you'll see how we have two positive numbers, this plus 3 and plus 1. That's going to be plus 4. Okay. Now I'm going to look at all the negatives and combine those. I have negative 5, negative 2, that's a negative 7. Now going back to when we're adding positive and negative numbers, I can either use a number line or I can remember that if my signs are different, I can subtract. So I have 7 minus 3 is going to be 4. Oh, sorry. Wrong number in there. It should be 7 minus 4 is 3. Keep the sign of the bigger number, which is negative. So in that box, what I have left is negative 3. And if I wanted to, I could have drew this box and I could have did, instead of writing the plus 4, plus 7, I could have a box with 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 negatives. Cancel them out. As you can see, I get those 3 negatives or negative 3. So let's try a couple more out. This box, I have positive 4, positive 3, and positive 5. I add them up, I got positive 12. Okay, now I look at my negatives. I have negative 4, negative 6, I have negative 10. Okay. So my signs are different. I can subtract, get 2, keep the sign of the bigger number, which is positive. My answer is going to be positive 2. Box on the right. They're all positive. All I need to do is add them up. There's no negatives. You don't have to worry about negatives. So if 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 1 is 8, plus 2 is 10. In that box, I have 10. Or if I want to, I could write plus 10. Remember, we don't really need a plus sign because we know if the number doesn't have a negative sign, it means it's positive if there's no sign. Let's look at this bottom box. Okay? I have positives here, negatives here. So the positives, I have a positive 5. Negatives, I have a negative 5. Okay? Notice we have opposites in this box. We have a positive 5, negative 5. When we have opposites, we should automatically know that that is going to be 0. Okay? Now, as we're moving along, we're starting to get into some more complex problems, and we're going to be disguising our numbers. So if you look at here where we have a minus and negative 3, that's kind of being disguised, but if we figure this out, remember minus, we're adding the opposite, so these are going to change. It changes to a plus 3. Okay? minus a negative 2 changes to a positive 2. 4 is obviously positive 4. If we have plus a positive 1, it's just going to be positive 1. So examples of negatives, we have minus a positive 2. Okay, so we'd be changing both of these signs. It becomes a negative 2. Plus a negative 3 is a negative 3. Plus a negative 1, minus a positive 4, minus 4. So there's some different examples. Now we're going back in our boxes. We're going to work on a box here that has some disguises. Okay? So what we're going to do, this 3, okay, I'm going to cross out, it's a positive 3. Look at this, plus a negative 4. Okay? I'm going to add negative 4, it's going to just be a negative 4. Minus a negative 5. Remember, for minusing, we change our signs. This becomes a positive 5. So far I have plus 3, negative 4, positive 5. Minus a positive 2. This changes to a negative 2, if we think back to our examples. So now I have a positive 3 and a positive 5. So that's going to be a positive 8. I have a negative 4, negative 2. It's a negative 6. I subtract, keep the sign a bigger number. In that box, I have a positive 2. Okay? So even though they were disguised, we can figure out whether they're positive or negative, and then we can solve. So let's go through these boxes. Minus a negative 3 turns into a positive 3. Plus a negative 5, it's going to stay a negative 5. Minus a positive 6, that's going to turn into a negative 6, because remember we're adding the opposite. And here, plus positive 4, that's going to be positive. So now, positives, I have positive 7. Negatives here, I have negative 11. Okay? So I subtract, I get 4, keep the sign of the bigger number. This first box, I have negative 4. Here, right away I see I have positive 4 in there, so that one's nice and easy. So I have minus positive 6. That should turn into a negative 6. Plus a negative 6, that's a negative 6. Minus a negative 3 turns into a positive 3. And minus positive 2 turns into a negative 2. So, my positives I have plus 7. My negatives I have negative 6, negative 12. I have negative 14. Subtract, keep the sign a bigger number. I get negative 7 for that box. And bottom one, I see a negative 2 right away. Plus a negative 3 is going to stay a negative 3. Minus positive 4 turns to a negative 4. So here I have no positives, so this should be easy. Just add up my numbers. I should get negative 9 as my answer. Now, the example for the whole lesson. So all that was building up to this. Because this is how you're going to see the problems, not in those boxes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these numbers and we're going to basically figure out if they're positive or negative and then combine like terms and make it easy to solve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to underline all my sets of numbers. So I have a negative 3, so my underline ends there, plus a negative 4. So when there's just one sign in there, it's plus or minus, and then we have the negative sign. So this is that plus negative 4, I have minus a negative 5, minus a positive 2, and plus a positive 6. So if I wanted to, I could kind of box these out so I know what my numbers are. Okay? Now, negative 3 is obviously going to stay a negative 3. Plus a negative 4, if you remember, is going to be a negative 4. Minus a negative 5, if the signs are the same, it becomes positive. So that's positive 5. Minus positive 2, signs are different, it's going to turn to a negative. Plus positive 6, signs are the same, it's going to be a positive. So now let's combine some like terms. Let's start with our positives. I'm going to box in my positives. So I have positive 5, positive 6. I get positive 11. I have negative 3, negative 4, and negative 2 is my negatives. 3 plus 4 is 7, 8, 9. I have negative 9. Should get positive 2. So notice how I kind of box these out with numbers so they each have their two signs. Some might only have one sign. But so I can figure out if the numbers are positive or negative and get rid of those disguises and make it easier to solve. So putting all that together, our problems are going to look like this, and this is how we can solve it. So get them into our positive and negative numbers, so we just have one sign with each number, and then we can combine like terms to get our answer. So there's the practice set. Make sure you take your time, figure out the numbers. Make sure you bring any questions you may have to class.